Hi, everyone. I'm Becca Lynn, servant leader, here today to talk to Frank Fufari about technology financing. Hi, Frank. How are you today?
Good, Becca. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you for joining me to talk about technology financing for public safety and public sector. It's a big deal, and people have a lot of questions. There's a lot of options out there today, and you're the go-to guy to talk about what you call finance or not financing. It's technology orchestration. You want to dig into that with us today?
Sure, no problem. I appreciate it, Becca. I call it technology orchestration because, in today's environment, it's not about pure capital or it's not about someone that can put a technology finance program together. It's all about life cycle management. So we have a deep knowledge of dealing in the public safety space, and we understand the agencies and we understand the process.
Love it. Awesome. So why APL credit? What makes you different from the other options out there in the market?
So one of the biggest things that we encounter is, just offering a product and a payment is not going to satisfy the agencies and what their needs are in today's environment. We have to encompass the client and agency. We have to be engaged with a reseller if there is one, and we have to be engaged with the OEM. In that way, we're providing the best product, the best service, and from our perspective, we are not transactional. We are portfolio managers and we're client managers. So we have to be able to engage that client or agency from the front end during the contract term, if they need to do some type of tech refresh or add on additional assets. And then on the back end, at the end of the asset life cycle, we have the ability to take that equipment back and dispose of it properly, provide the certifications to our client or agency, and then also provide some value back to that client or agency to use on their next asset acquisition.
Love that. Sounds very trustworthy. Love it. Okay. So there are, from what I understand, technology for law enforcement, like public safety, public sector is a little bit different than financing other types of equipment. Do you want to tell us why that is?
Sure. There are two basic points. The first point is these are critical assets. This is protect the officers in the field and also to protect the public. The other issue that is different is we have to have an understanding of working within the budgets of an agency. That's not necessarily the case on commercial transactions. We have the ability to work within that budget. We understand that June 30 is a big turnover from fiscally from year to year. We also see a lot of agencies that there's a September 30 fiscal year end. So we have to work within those specific budgets that are going to allow an agency to appropriate for those funds.
That makes sense. And what can agencies include in an APL credit technology solution?
Sure. We can include anything that pertains to that particular project. That would include hardware, software, services, implementation, and project management. Anything that is part of that particular project is all bundled into one contract.
Perfect. So you're talking a little bit about timeline, right, in fiscal years. And I hear a lot of people say like, oh, we're on a contract and people think they're locked in. Not necessarily true, but can you explain what a 5-year annual rental model looks like in simple terms?
Sure. In simple terms, it's what is the project cost, and we break that out, the total project cost for the agency to acquire all the assets that they need today, and we spread it out over a 5-year annual term.
Nice. Okay, so there's a couple terms that I want to clear up for people here. So, the biggest difference between CapEx and OpEx, but what's the biggest advantage of operating expense, so OpEx model versus, making a large capital purchase right up front?
So in simple terms, the biggest thing is, why would an agency put a huge cash outlay and a capital expense on a depreciating asset?
Boom. Easy said, right? Easy
Mhm.
said. So the person watching this can answer that for themselves, and then have a conversation with you about what that looks like for them.
Mhm.
Because and one thing people find interesting is the technology refresh, which you mentioned earlier. Can you tell us how that works and what a technology refresh is?
Sure. So at any time during a contract, it doesn't have to be a specific time. We can we can add on any type of assets. AI report writing right now is the hot item. So if an agency was halfway through a contract, a year into a contract, we can add on any assets at that particular time, and continue on and make it a coterminous contract with their original contract. The tech refresh is an option, and I would say 80 to 90% of our agencies at some point during their contract, with the rapid innovation of the technologies that are coming out, they will come to us and say, "Hey, can we do a tech refresh, an entire tech refresh of our fleet?" They can do a partial refresh. It just depends on what their needs are at the time. So if we have them on a 5-year contract, our goal is to put them into the new asset, the new project, and rewrite the contract, take the old assets back, credit the agency for those assets, and keep their payment flat.
Nice. And you mentioned the big component, which is that integration of AI. And with some products, they don't have the ability, it's not that flexible to just upgrade, so this makes perfect sense. So, why do you believe it makes more sense to pay for the technology you're using today instead of owning it? And you kind of mentioned the depreciation factor. Is there any other factor?
There is, and I like to keep things simple. And we all in our personal lives have a cell phone, and you make this evaluation, especially with the cost of cell phones these days. It might be $2,000 per device. You have 5 people in your family. That's $10,000 that you're putting out today. And we've all faced this. We have storage issues. We have battery life issues. We have, for some reason, all of a sudden we have service issues. And then you find yourself having to outlay another $10,000 in 2 or 3 years for these cell phones. And I was looking at a Pew report recently, and it's amazing how the people years ago just used to pay for their cell phone, and that's how they went about their business. And the escalation in folks in the United States in their personal lives are all moving towards some type of payment program.
I'm laughing backstage here because I'm on one of those programs because I've experienced all those pain points
Right,
personally,
right.
literally. So that makes perfect sense. So, and I can see why it's so vital, especially for mission critical agencies and teams, to be able to have all of the upgrading and constant flexibility. So makes perfect sense. Okay, so if like a police chief, city administrators like evaluating in-car videos, body cameras, rugged computing like they are today. small, medium, and large sizes of teams, what advice would you give them before making a purchasing decision?
Yeah, one of the things that that I've seen and I think would be important to an agency making an evaluation are the incremental cost increases. And under our program, if it's $10,000 annually, it's $10,000 annually throughout the term of the contract. I have seen instances where, an agency is quoted, hey, it's $10,000 annually. And then for some reason, they end up at their fifth year of annual payments, and somehow it escalated to $30,000 annually. And it's all these hidden incremental costs throughout that term that where I've seen agencies run into trouble, and they don't understand how they signed up for $10,000 annually, and all of a sudden they're at 30 by the end of the term.
Right. So these kind of old school financing models aren't really future proofing their technology investment, so to speak, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that pretty much sums it up for, you defining what technology orchestration is. If there's one thing you'd want agencies and teams to remember about APL credit, what's that, Frank?
The one thing I would say is ease of doing business. We cannot have it be a long, drawn out process and take up the agency's time. We have a process in place that makes it simple, easy, straightforward, and transparent.
And that's vital in this line of work. So awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for your time. We really appreciate, your knowledge and your flexibility for the future proofing of technology for public safety. Appreciate
Thanks, Becca. Thank you.